Grilled eggplant salad with caprese vinaigrette, a salad that explodes with flavor. Indian grilled cheese on a stick with grilled bread. This is vegetarian nirvana. And Portobello cheeseburgers. The pesto gives the mushrooms a whole new dimension of flavor. Today we're grilling from the garden. I'm Steven Raichlen, and from the beautiful Esplendor Resort in southern Arizona, it's time to grill. I love grilled meats as much as the next guy, but I also love the vibrant flavor of vegetables on the grill. This show is all about good things from the garden. If you're a vegetarian, you won't want to miss it. And even if you're an avowed carnivore, well, you might just learn a new trick or two. Eggplant is one of the world's most popular vegetables for grilling. You find it in Argentina, you find it in Japan, you find it in the Middle East, where it's used to make a grilled eggplant dip called baba ganoush. The reason is simple. Eggplant has a very spongy consistency, and that consistency absorbs fire and smoke flavors like a sponge. First up on deck, grilled eggplant salad with caprese vinaigrette. Now, there are many different varieties of eggplant. This is the common North American bulbous eggplant, the light-skinned Asian eggplant, and the Italian eggplant, which is what I'm going to use today. So the first step is to cut the eggplant in half from tip to tip. Then what you want to do is score the bottom of the eggplant. I'm making cuts that are about 1/4 of an inch deep, and I'll score in a crosshatch pattern. What this does is it helps the eggplant cook more quickly. Let me score the other side here. Next step, season the eggplants. So what you want to do is brush the top of each eggplant with some extra virgin olive oil. The olive oil keeps the eggplant moist during grilling, and it also helps hold the other seasonings. Now season each eggplant half first with coarse sea salt, coarse crystals so they don't dissolve during grilling. Then freshly ground black pepper, dried oregano, hot pepper flakes, then finely chopped garlic, and last, finely chopped parsley. And you notice I kept a damp paper towel on the parsley to keep it fresh until using. Those are the basic seasonings, and you can just drizzle the eggplants with a little bit more extra virgin olive oil. I wouldn't use the brush here because it would wipe off all the seasonings. Okay, so we'll just let the eggplants marinate a little bit. Now let me show you something really cool. The other main ingredient in the salad is smoked mozzarella. Of course, you can buy smoked mozzarella, but I thought it would be fun to show you how to smoke your own. Now, this is an electric smoker, and it has several genial properties. First of all, to generate smoke, it uses these discs of hardwood sawdust. The discs go in this hopper, and they're fed automatically into the smoke chamber. You can set the temperature digitally. There's also a way to turn off the heating element so you're just smoking. When you smoke cheese, it's important to work at a really low temperature. I'll put the mozzarella on the rack in the smoke chamber. These mozzarellas have been smoking about 1 hour. And let me show you how to set up the grill. Now, I'm working with natural lump charcoal. Use a chimney starter to light it. What you do is put a crumpled piece of newspaper or a paraffin fire starter in the bottom of the chimney. Of course, you'll be working in your grill. The beauty of a chimney starter, the vertical shape funnels the heat upright so that you get clean, even ignition in about 20 minutes. Now, I've set the grill up for classic two-zone grilling. What that means is coals raked in a single layer over 2/3 of the grill. That's my grilling area. 1/3 of the grill coal-free. That's the safety zone. So if the eggplant starts to cook too quickly or burn, you can move it there. And as always, when direct grilling, you want to keep it hot. We keep it clean with a stiff wire brush run across the grill grates. And you want to keep it lubricated. And here is a cool trick I learned in Israel. Spear a half an onion on a carving fork, dip it in oil, and use it to oil the grill grate. Israelis swear that this gives you a subtle onion flavor. Okay, so just put the eggplants on the grill. Start cut side down. So how did the eggplant get its name? Well, one of the first varieties of eggplant was the albino eggplant, still available, by the way, and it really did look like an egg. The eggplants are ready for turning over when they're golden brown on the first side. So all you do is just turn each eggplant over. And thanks to the scoring you did on the bottom, the heat and smoke will penetrate through to the eggplant flesh. I'll show you one other thing, by the way. You can see the eggplants, the fire is hotter in the center, that makes sense. So if you want, all you need to do is sort of rotate the inside eggplants to the outside. You can give the eggplants that were on the outside a little bit more time. The idea is to wind up with a uniform brown color on each eggplant. Cooking time on this side is going to be another 5 to 8 minutes. And if the eggplants start to cook too quickly, just move them forwards towards the safety zone. So while we're finishing up on the eggplant, let me show you how to make the salad. The dressing is a sort of deconstructed caprese salad. It starts with diced tomato, diced smoked mozzarella cheese, thinly slivered fresh basil, freshly squeezed lemon juice, and I squeeze it between my fingers to catch any seeds, coarse salt, and freshly ground black pepper. Just finish the salad up with a drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. And combine these ingredients. Salsa Italian style. Okay, so the eggplants are ready. How do you know? Well, first of all, they feel soft. You can also see the juices bubbling in one corner. Let's take off the eggplant. What I like about these Italian eggplants is that they're really tender and incredibly sweet. Okay, so let me show you how to put this together. Here's the grilled eggplant, and what you want to do is just spoon some of the smoked mozzarella caprese over the eggplant. Very light, very fresh. And then if you have a couple of sprigs of basil, you can just put a little basil in the center. Let's take a taste. Nice. There's really a lot of flavor going on here. You have the heat of the hot pepper flakes, the cool succulence of the tomato, the charred eggplant, the smoky cheese. Sometimes the best way to enjoy a vegetable fresh from the garden is to put it on the grill. Grilled cheese is found all over Planet Barbecue. In Argentina, for example, they grill a cheese called provoletta. It's sort of a provolone-like cheese. In Greece, they grill a cheese called saganaki, crisp white cheese. And in India, they grill a cheese called paneer. A vegetarian at a typical American barbecue is like a fish out of water. Not so in India, where there are probably more vegetarians than there are people in the United States. Our next stop is New Delhi, epicenter of Indian barbecue. I like to think of this dish as grilled cheese on a stick. The main ingredient for this dish is an Indian cheese called paneer. It's a mild, firm cheese made out of cow's milk. You can order it by mail, or you could alternatively use queso blanco or Greek halloumi cheese. You want a cheese that's fairly firm so it won't melt on the grill. Next, the pepper. In India, bell peppers are a little spicier than ours, so I recommend using a poblano chili. It's a little bit like a turbocharged green pepper. Next, the onion. Red onion cut in half and then in thirds. I'll show you how to make segments. Now, let me show you how to put the kebab together. Ingredient number 1, a slice of chili. Notice I'm working on a flat metal skewer. This is important because it keeps the ingredients from spinning when you cook the kebabs. A half of a plum tomato, and finally your paneer cheese. And just keep building the kebabs. For me, it's very important to work in the same pattern. There are our vegetable and cheese kebabs. Next, the marinade. Start with melted butter, and to it add chopped fresh cilantro, finely chopped garlic, chopped fresh ginger, turmeric, and a pinch of salt. Whisk these ingredients together and sizzle on the fire for a couple of minutes. Naan may be some of the oldest barbecue in the world. In India, barbecue is cooked in an urn-shaped clay barbecue pit called a tandoor. Tandoors have been found that date back 5,000 years. The original purpose of a tandoor was used for roasting flatbread. You sort of slap it up on the inside of this clay barbecue pit, and it'd be ready in a couple of minutes. Now, I've made a simple yeast dough using flour, milk, yeast, and eggs. It's called naan. The recipe is on our website. And what you want to do is flour a board. And I like to do this at grill side. Sprinkle a little flour on top. And you want to roll the naan out into circles. And when you go to an Indian barbecue joint or bakery in New Delhi, you'll actually see the grill master with a rolling pin and a rolling board and flour at the side of the grill. He rolls out the breads to order. I've set up the grill for direct grilling. This side is preheated, screaming hot for the kebabs. First, let's put on our grilled cheese kebabs. And as the kebabs grill, you can baste them with the ginger and garlic mixture. Now, for the Indian flatbreads, brush each bread on the top with melted butter. Then place the bread, butter side down, directly on the grate. And as the breads grill, brush them with melted butter on the top. You'll see they'll start to bubble and blister on top. That's the characteristic look of Indian naan. Once the breads are brown, quickly turn on the other side. I did this little rotation because the grill's hotter on this side than this side. Turn each grilled cheese kebab over. You can see the beauty of this paneer cheese is that it holds its shape during grilling. And in India, as in the United States, they love bread with butter. One final step for an extra layer of flavor, you can sprinkle the kebabs with sesame seeds. So once your grilled cheese kebabs are cooked, transfer them to a platter. Grilled cheese kebabs with Indian flatbread. It's a new vegetarian tradition. The last step, you can just squeeze a little fresh lemon juice over the kebabs. To try these, what you can do is actually take a flatbread and just take off a few of the ingredients from the kebab and make yourself a sort of Indian grilled cheese sandwich. The cheese, the tomatoes, the grilled peppers, the bread, this is vegetarian nirvana. Portobello mushrooms are great for grilling. First of all, very broad cap with deep gills, so the portobello absorbs all those fire and smoke flavors. It also looks a bit like a burger or a steak, so it makes a great vegetarian alternative to grilled meat. To judge from your emails, you love portobello mushrooms, especially on the grill. You might think of our last dish as a cheeseburger with a twist. The burger is actually a portobello mushroom marinated in pesto. The portobello mushroom is the largest mushroom available at the market. And what you do is first clean the cap with a damp paper towel. Next, using a paring knife, cut the stem off flush with the cap. Now, to add extra flavor and reinforce the pesto idea, make a series of holes in the gill side of the cap. In some of the holes, place slivers of Pecorino Romano cheese. In other of the holes, place slivers of garlic. Then pine nuts. Finally, take a couple of basil leaves, roll them up into a tight tube, make another hole, and insert the basil leaves in the portobello mushroom cap. Next, the pesto. It starts with basil and coarsely chopped garlic, pine nuts, and Pecorino Romano cheese, exactly the same ingredients we use to stuff the mushroom caps. And whenever you're working in a food processor, brine the dry ingredients first, then add your liquid ingredients, extra virgin olive oil, and fresh lemon juice. And process these ingredients until smooth. And you just want to puree this to a smooth paste. Now take the pesto, pour 6 circles of pesto on the baking sheet. Spread these flat with the back of a spoon. Place 1 portobello mushroom on each circle. This is how you marinate both the top and bottom of the portobello. And finally, pour the remaining pesto on top of each mushroom. And spread it over the top of the portobello mushrooms. I always try to include at least one vegetarian show in Primal Grill. First of all, my wife and daughter were both vegetarians when I wrote my first barbecue book. Second of all, there are a lot of vegetarians out there. I think there's 7 or 8% of the American population is vegetarian. It's very important to bring vegetarians to the barbecue table. One last step, onion buns, which I'll brush lightly on both insides with extra virgin olive oil. Next, let me show you the grill. I've set up the grill for direct grilling. This side of the grill set on medium-high, this side on medium. The portobello mushrooms need a little bit more heat than the buns. let's put on the mushrooms. Now you want to start grilling the mushrooms gill side down. And once the portobellos are browned on the gill side, it's about 2 to 3 minutes, turn them over. It smells very, very nice. And lay a slice of provolone cheese on top of each portobello mushroom. And the ambient heat of the grill will melt the cheese. And while the cheese is melting, don't forget to grill the buns. Grilling time on the buns is really quick. Don't forget the 10th commandment of great grilling: never desert your post. So here are the grilled buns. And once the cheese is melted, simply pull the portobello mushrooms off the grill. The easiest way to clean the grill after grilling is to burn off this marinade. Simply leave the grill set on high, close the lid, leave it burn for about 15 minutes, and then hit it with the grill brush one more time. Now let's assemble those portobello burgers. On top, place a portobello cheeseburger, a piece of lettuce, and the second bun on top. When I was growing up, no one knew from portobello mushrooms. For us, if we ate fresh mushrooms at all, they were button mushrooms. The portobello is actually a giant cousin of the regular button mushroom. You might think of it as a button mushroom on steroids. Let me build one for me. So again, the bun, the portobello mushroom burger, the lettuce leaf, and the bite. The pesto adds a whole new dimension. Carnivores, eat your heart out. Grilled eggplant salad, Indian grilled cheese with grilled bread, portobello cheeseburgers. Vegetarians, we've got you covered. Don't get me wrong, I love grilled vegetables as... The tandoor, by the way... Hey!
My chopped liver?
I'm sorry, man. And while the cheese is melting, don't forget to grill.
One more time, do not look at Terry.
And while the cheese is melting... I'm sorry.
Every time you look at Terry, you owe Richard $1,000.
Action.
And while the cheese...
That's $7.